There was a stretch of history when this everyday spice was worth more than gold. Not as a figure of speech, literally weighed against gold, fought over, sailed across oceans for. And right now it's probably sitting in the back of your spice rack, half forgotten, possibly stale, untouched for a year or more. Cloves. Here's what pulled me back to it. A randomized, double-blind trial gave a clove extract to 70 adults with metabolic syndrome for just over a week, and the researchers tracked fasting glucose, post-meal glucose, HbA1c, insulin levels, and insulin resistance scores. The comparison group received a synthetic antioxidant, pure glutathione, and saw essentially no movement on those markers. A kitchen spice outperformed a lab-grade supplement. That surprised me, and by the end of this piece you'll understand the mechanism, the timing, and the one mistake that quietly ruins the whole preparation. I'm Ben. I write about metabolic health, and this community has collectively tracked well over 1 million pounds of fat loss. Today I want to walk through something specific. What happens inside your body, hour by hour, when you drink a cup of clove-infused water shortly before bed, not the vague, it's good for you version, but the actual overnight timeline. Why this spice, specifically? Start with a measurement called ORAC, Oxygen Radical Absorbance Capacity, originally developed at the National Institutes of Health to gauge how effectively a food neutralizes free radicals. Blueberries, the poster child of superfood, land around 9,000 on that scale. Dark chocolate comes in near 80,000. Acai, the stuff charged at a premium in smoothie bowls, scores about 161,000. Cloves score roughly 314,000. Not top 5, first place, and not close. Higher than cinnamon, higher than oregano, higher than turmeric, which has an entire supplement industry built around it. Ounce for ounce, a teaspoon of ground cloves carries more antioxidant capacity than half a cup of pomegranate juice. Now, a caveat worth being honest about. ORAC is a test tube measurement. A high score doesn't guarantee a real effect in a living body, because absorption is the bottleneck for most polyphenols. Your gut often just ignores them. Cloves are something of an exception because the active compound, eugenol, is small and fat-soluble, which means it actually crosses into circulation. That's a likely reason the human trials on clove show measurable effects rather than the usual antioxidant study null result. The study that prompted this. Published in the Journal of Functional Foods, a randomized, double-blind, active-controlled trial, 70 adults, all with metabolic syndrome. One arm received a clove polyphenol extract. The other received synthetic glutathione, the same antioxidant that shows up constantly in biohacking circles. After roughly 12 weeks, the clove group's plasma glutathione had risen roughly 6-fold. Their fasting glucose, post-meal glucose, HbA1c, insulin levels, and HOMAIR, a standard insulin resistance score, all improved. Total cholesterol and triglycerides dropped. HDL, the protective kind, rose. The glutathione group showed no meaningful change in blood sugar or lipid metabolism. The researchers' takeaway was interesting. If this was simply antioxidants help, the glutathione group should have improved too. Something specific to clove's polyphenol profile was doing the work, not antioxidant activity in general. A second, smaller study in BMC complementary medicine followed 13 volunteers split by baseline fasting glucose, one group under 100 milligrams per deciliter, one group in the pre-diabetic range of 101–125. Both received a water-soluble clove extract, about 250 milligrams once daily. By day 12, both groups showed statistically significant drops in 2-hour post-meal glucose. The pre-diabetic group fell by roughly 17 points. By day 30, their fasting glucose was down nearly 14 points from baseline. The mechanism. Lab follow-up on that extract identified 3 simultaneous effects. It increased glucose uptake into muscle cells, it suppressed glucose production in the liver, the same broad target that metformin works on, and it inhibited alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase, the gut enzymes that break carbohydrates down into absorbable sugar. Less sugar produced, less sugar absorbed, more sugar used. 3 levers, 1 compound. Why nighttime matters. While you sleep 8 or 9 hours with no food, your liver has one job: keep blood sugar from crashing. It does this through hepatic glucose output, steadily releasing stored sugar into the bloodstream all night. In a metabolically healthy person, that release is well calibrated. In someone with insulin resistance, a category that describes a large share of adults, the dial runs too high. The liver keeps releasing glucose it doesn't need to, insulin stays elevated, and the body spends the night in fat storage mode. That's often the explanation for waking up with a fasting glucose of 110, despite not having eaten in 10 hours. The sugar came from your own liver. This is exactly the pathway the clove extract seems to dampen. Drinking it before bed times the compound to the window when hepatic glucose output is most active. Hour by hour. 0, 30 minutes. Eugenol reaches the gut first. Its molecular structure disrupts microbial cell membranes broadly, bacteria, fungi, even candida, which is part of why clove has been a dental antiseptic for well over a century. Bloating and digestive discomfort often start easing here too, as clove stimulates digestive enzyme flow. 1 to 2 hours. Eugenol moves into circulation and begins influencing NF-kappa B, a central inflammatory signaling pathway, tamping it down. Eugenol also appears to modulate GABA receptors, the same calming neurotransmitter system that sleep medications target, just far more gently. This is usually the source of the mild sedative effect people report. 2 to 4 hours. Deep sleep window. This is where the liver-focused work happens. Hepatic glucose output gets suppressed and glutathione recycling ramps up, consistent with that 6-fold increase in knees from the 12-week trial. 4. 7 hours. NRF2 activation, the transcription factor that switches on your body's own antioxidant gene expression, the same pathway people chase through cold plunges and sauna sessions. 7 hours to waking. Lower fasting glucose, lower morning inflammation, and this only compounds with consistency. One night is one night. The 12-day mark is where the human trial data actually moved. The mistake that wastes the whole effort. Most people simmer cloves in an uncovered pot, and in doing so, watch the compound evaporate straight into the kitchen air. Eugenol is volatile and aromatic. The stronger your kitchen smells while it brews, the more of the active compound you're losing to the steam rather than drinking. Keep the lid on the entire time it's on heat, so the vapor condenses on the lid and drips back into the water instead of escaping. Second mistake. Pre-ground clove powder that's been sitting in a cupboard for years. Grinding exposes eugenol to oxidation almost immediately. Whole cloves keep it sealed inside the bud, so buy whole and grind nothing. Third, more is not better. Some research shows lower doses of eugenol actually helped heal gastric ulcers, while high doses worsened gastric damage, a classic hormetic, dose-dependent response. This is tea, not concentrated oil. How to make it. 4 to 5 whole cloves, 1 cup of filtered water. Bring to a boil, then immediately drop to a simmer, lid on, for 5 minutes. Kill the heat, leave the lid on, and let it steep another 10 minutes. A good portion of the extraction happens during that cooling steep. Drink it 30 to 60 minutes before bed. If the bitterness bothers you, half a teaspoon of raw honey won't meaningfully move the needle. It's the 200 grams of dinner carbs that matter, not 2 grams of honey. Give it at least 2 weeks before judging results. The trial data showed change starting around day 12, not day 1. If you want objective feedback rather than a guess, track fasting glucose with a finger prick meter or continuous glucose monitor over that window. Real cautions, not an afterthought. Eugenol has measurable antiplatelet activity, so if you're on blood thinners, talk to your doctor first. If you're on diabetes medication, this can stack with it, meaning glucose could drop further than expected. So monitor closely and loop in your physician. If you have surgery scheduled, stop at least 2 weeks out for the same antiplatelet reason. And this means the tea, water infused with whole buds, not clove oil. Concentrated eugenol taken internally in quantity has been linked to real cases of liver injury. Tea, never the oil. The bigger point: if your diet is otherwise poor, sleep is chronically short, and movement is minimal, a cup of clove tea isn't going to erase that. It's not a substitute for the fundamentals. What it is a well-timed signal delivered exactly when your liver is doing its most important overnight metabolic work, with essentially no conscious input from you. People 500 years ago didn't have the vocabulary of NRF2 activation or hepatic glucose suppression. They just knew the bud mattered. We've simply caught up to why. A simpler option. Not everyone wants to simmer cloves nightly, and that's fair. The underlying goal here is just giving your body the best possible conditions to recover overnight. If a ready-made nighttime formula fits your routine better, look for one built around ingredients with actual research behind them for this purpose. Magnesium glycinate for nervous system relaxation and slow-wave sleep support. Glycine for faster sleep onset and core temperature regulation. Myo-inositol for blood sugar and insulin signaling support, plus taurine, GABA, and L-theanine for calming an overactive nervous system. Whatever you choose, the goal is the same. Give your liver a quiet, well-signaled night instead of a chaotic one. If this was useful, pass it along to someone and suggest trying it for the next 14 nights together. Then compare notes on what changed.